I welcome you all with love. We start this Parsha with a prayer. The prayer is merging the heavens and the earth, and that has even more importance in this Parsha, Hayyei Sarah. L'shem Yakud Kudusha Brihu Ushinate Bi Ilo Imulayha Shemuke Bevavke B'Yida Shalom Shem Kozreo Kolam Amen. So Hayyei Sarah starts out with the lifetime of Sarah was 100 years, 20 and 7 years. 127 years. The years of Sarah's life. Now, that's a redundancy on the surface. Okay, but this isn't really the surface here. So we're going to go a little deeper, and it actually, one way of interpreting that is that Sarah, in her life, was alive all 127 years, meaning she was enlightened from the time of birth. She was experiencing the divine of God in all things. And now she's left her body, and Abraham is giving an eulogy, but he doesn't cry much. Why? Because the infinite light is infinite. It can't die. And he knows her as the infinite light. And she brings the light to the world. As a sacred feminine, in the enlightenment energetic, she brings the light. And now her two men in her life, Abraham and Yitzhak, from the previous Parsha, both became enlightened. And some of the ancient teachings, now, it goes both ways. But primarily, it's seen that the woman incarnates to help wake up the man. Now, obviously, the men who incarnate to wake up the woman in their lives. But the point is, part of her main mission had been completed. Abraham and Yitzhak both became liberated. And they're experiencing the world very differently. So her mission completed at 127 years. So that's really powerful and beautiful. And the second level to that understanding is that she was really living in both worlds at once. This world and the world to come. And so that's why it's a redundancy. Okay, Sarah lived 127 years, the years of Sarah's life. So we have that she was experiencing the light in all those years, from the very beginning, and she was really walking in two worlds at once. Now, that takes us to where did she get buried? And it's the cave of Machpelah. Now, what's that? That's in Hebron. The word Hebron means connection. Now, I've been at the cave of Machpelah multiple times. And there's two levels to the cave, which also fits with the story that we're talking about. Two levels here. And the upper level is really where people are allowed to go. And the lower level has been closed for an extremely long time. And I was very fortunate to be introduced to a person when he was 10 years old with a few other kids, because there's just a small hole going to the lower level, who actually was allowed to go into the lower level. And he was actually the last one to go, or last group of people to go. And I've seen his artwork, and basically what we see, just because very few people are privy to this, the burial place is Kriyat Arba is the burial of the four. So we have Adam and Eve being buried there, Adam and Hava, Abraham and Sarah, who perhaps many people feel with the reincarnation, Adam and Eve straightening out what they didn't get straightened out. Yitzhak and Rebecca, which we're going to talk about shortly, and Yaakov and Leah. Rachel gets buried along the way, so she doesn't get buried in the cave. So, and what he described actually is these, his pictures actually, is that they're just kind of slits in the ground where their physical body's been placed. This is a pretty heavy place, pretty profound. And so I actually saw, pictures of what was underneath. Now there's a little bit more to underneath. There are caves, as there are really all over the world, okay, in different ways. A cave going all the way to Yerushalayim, but also holes going to the center of the earth. This is something that the Arabs also knew about, or know about, and sometimes they would lower people down through those holes, and then suddenly those people would disappear. So something is going on, and it could be the place where I talk about the 7 levels underneath the earth, where and really Adam and Hava were born at the 6th level down, according to some of the esoteric tradition. The point being, however, there are multiple levels there, and she's walking in 2 worlds. And her burial there, as the first Jew, period, to be buried, to die, okay, is a symbol about walking between the worlds. And that's key, because there are multiple worlds. And we'll go that a little further in a moment. So there is this huge symbolism. Hebron, connection. Hayyei, the first to die. Hayyei, who creates light for the world and brings enlightenment. It's a little bit of a message we'll see about soulmates, okay? She and Abraham were soulmates. They grew up together and were soulmates that way. Yitzhak and Rivka didn't even know each other, but became soulmates. And without going through that whole story, Abraham sent his servant Eliezer to find an appropriate wife, and he found this wonderful, giving young lady, and it turns out that her father was Betul, and the son of one of Abraham's brothers, and her mother is Michal, who was the daughter of one of Abraham's other brothers. So they have definitely kept this in the family. And at those times, that's actually what people did. Okay? So we have this huge energy. Now, Rivka, another example of soulmate, comes from a long distance. They don't know each other, but she knows this is the right one. And it's said that they come across Yitzhak meditating in the field. So this is the first mention really of meditation, but it's a very, very important part of the Great Torah way. So meditation's introduced. She sees him. They say she fell off her camel. Well, I don't know if she fell off her camel, but she got off her camel, put her veil on, and they connected. And when he took her into Sarah's tent, the tent lit up again. So what we're talking about is the importance of the sacred feminine, of holding the light throughout the traditions. That's really, really important to get. So it made it very clear. Her presence, their union, the light is activated. And it's one of the missions of Israel, as Isaiah says, to be a light to the world. And there we are, a light to the world. So that is also going on. Now, another level of understanding this is it talks about Abraham, and in a sense being old in days, and it really means wise. Okay? And then there's another message about Abraham, which is the word coming into days. What does coming into days mean? It really speaks to the fact that he had mastered time. And in the liberation process, it's important to we overcome time, because we go, as I say in my book, into the nothing. And into the nothing has to do with the primordial chaos of day one of creation, prior to time, space, and energy. So he had also reached that. And that's kind of code for that. But what did he reach? What are we talking about? Well, if we're going to go prior to time, space, and energy, or prior to time, we're also going into time as a spiral, and one step further, experiencing past, present, and future simultaneously. Because we're no longer in linear time. We're in circular time. And there's spirals. And we hit a point on that time, and we are again in the eternal presence. It took me a long time to figure that out, to tell you the truth, because having that awareness, it's like, where is that written? And I always try to correlate to really check out what's really going on. I always try to correlate what's going on within me with, well, has anyone ever written about it? So it's very specific. Overcoming time, Abraham was not only old in days, meaning wise, but he had, in essence, overcome time as part of his liberation process. It's pretty profound, all these things going on. So we have Sarah, walker between the worlds, living in the world, which is a model not only of a shamanic model, but also a model of liberation, where we become a walker between all the worlds. Now, another commentary, this is all coded, but not so coded, okay? When Rivka is blessed by her family, they bless her with myriads, thousands, myriads of thousands. What are we talking about? Well, in what we call the Gematria, we have at the physical plane, ones, and then at the astral plane, tens, and then finally we go up a little bit into the higher planes, okay, and we're talking about thousands, and then we go finally to Keter, divine will, hundreds of thousands. So in a sense, we've gone beyond time. So she is blessed with her family to be at the highest level of liberation. So we're not just talking about physical plane and the world to come, which is really the astral plane. We're talking about the world of Beriah, the world of Hukmah, where we're talking about thousands, and then finally millions. And that's the world of Keter, or the divine will. So I'm kind of want us to understand that the significance of what we're talking about here, and the fact that there, I'm going to say it, multiple levels and worlds. So we've opened up a whole set of things. Sarah walking in this world and the world to come. Abraham mastering time, where he's feeling past, present, and future simultaneously. Rivka being blessed to be in the world of Keter, of the let's say of the 5 levels, 4 levels, where she's beyond the physical and the astral, and the cave of Machpelah, which is in Hebron, which is about connection, and it's like the enlightenment connection. That's what we're talking about. So this is this Parsha is talking really about the importance of the sacred feminine, bringing light to the world, the importance of, let's say, sacred feminine as Sarah, activating and being part of the liberation energetics of her two men, Abraham, and of her son Yitzhak. I mean, that's a lot going on, okay? And then Abraham being old in days and also overcoming time, past, present, and future, living in the eternal presence. So we're looking at so many levels of understanding. Now, I happen to really, so it ends with Abraham, and I just want to say that he's one of my number one figures. I've had visions of him even when I was 8 years old, but also when I did a 3-day fast, a dry fast in the desert overlooking the Dead Sea. And he had many qualities. But I also want to bring up one more thing. Sarah, walker between the worlds, in Hebron, is also, we're illuminating the idea that the land of Israel and the pathway that Sarah opens up, so we have the land of Israel and the pathway that Sarah opens up, is the way to higher consciousness. That's a very important statement, is that the land of Israel and Hebron being in the land of Israel is a doorway to higher levels of consciousness. And so it's a statement really about, in essence, the land of Israel being, in a sense, a portal, and the cave of Machpelah being a specific portal, but the whole land of Israel being a portal to take people to higher levels of consciousness. And that's one of the reasons we're moving there. Shanti and I are moving there, because to be part of that portal. We've been drawn there repeated times, and yes, we're going to a place where there's a more intense portal to higher consciousness. Now, there's another piece why I so appreciate Abraham, is he wasn't one-dimensional. A lot of people have the idea, well, just be in the now and that's fine. No, Abraham as an enlightened being not only mastered time, okay, but really, and became God-merged, okay, but he was a revolutionary and an evolutionary. He and Sarah were about changing the world. Now, Yitzhak and Rivka were about consolidating that, but they were not pushing to transform the world. My relationship with Abraham is the whole issue of how do we wake up the world? How do we transform the world? That was more Abrahamic than Yitzhak and Rivka. And so there are variations, and people come for different purposes. My purpose is about waking up the world. Okay? So, he was also a spiritual warrior. With his 318 soldiers, he defeated the 4 kings who captured Lot. His tent was open in all the directions. He was open to everyone. That also means open to all of life's experiences. He wasn't in resistance to life. He was totally there, open to all of life. And of course, he was a seed of the three of the great religions, okay? And he and Sarah, and really Keturah as well, brought a new dimension to male-female relationships. In the story, too, Keturah who returns and remarries Abraham, and they have many children, and sends them out into the world. He also was the first to talk about both a transcendent and immanent relationship with God, seeing God in all things, in the immediacy, right in front of us. And really, his spiritual greatness was the choice to walk before God as a blessing. These are all qualities that all of us can take on, okay? He's also the transmitter of the Melchizedek tradition that was Shem, son of Noah, and that goes all the way back to Adam and Havah. So they went beyond tribal consciousness, Sarah and Abraham, into universal consciousness, uplifting everybody, not just their own tribe. Okay? And he brought the awareness of creating holiness in all of life. And part of that was the transformation of Hagar, okay, who he later marries, and she had changed her name to Keturah, which is a transformation within her. So it's this constant movement, the light of Sarah, this sacred relationship between these two, the transformation that happens, Hagar being transformed to Keturah, and it's all about walking in all the world simultaneously and not belonging to anyone. That's a profound message here as part of it. And Hayyei is the number one bringer of that message, but later we see Abraham is also becomes the walker between the worlds. So we go from the physical to the shamanic to the pure mental and altly to merging with Hashem or God at every level. It's a very powerful Parsha, and may everyone be blessed that we're open to the light of Sarah in our tents and in our lives, and the spiritual courage of Abraham to transcend all limitations, all restrictions, and go beyond time into the truth of who we are and into the eternal presence prior to the time where past, present, and future are a singular awareness. Peace be with you, and shalom. And now we're going to meditate for about 3 minutes just to get that, so just feel the energy coming through. Close your eyes and we'll meditate for a few minutes. And just repeat the name of God. Yod on the in-breath. Hey on the out-breath. Wah on the in-breath. Hey on the out-breath. Until your mind is quiet. And then you're in meditation. And we're taking on the energies of Yitzhak. Meditating in the fields, becoming one with all there is. And focus on the energy coming through in my eyes. It's part of the tradition to share this energy of the Ruach HaKodesh, the liberation energy within every person. Okay, just repeat the mantra till your mind's quiet. Yo. Slowly come out of meditation, and may you be blessed with a wonderful day and a continual expansion of your consciousness. Amen.